Hi there, I care and you matter. I'm Shannon and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the difference between worry and concern. And if I'm completely honest, I thought they were one and the same, but after years of struggle, I've discovered that they're not. There are very distinct differences between the two. But first, I'm going to tell you a little story. We adopted our youngest son, Mark, from Guatemala well over 15 years ago now. Wow. And when we adopted him, some things were disclosed, other things weren't. And long story short, fast forward 10 years after the adoption, and genetic testing, specifically whole exome sequencing, it actually took many years for science to catch up to the point of actually giving us some answers. Whole exome sequencing gave us some answers, not all of them, but some of them. In fact, enough answers to leave us worrying about Mark's future, worrying about our future as a family, and frankly, worrying about my future as a caregiver. Was I going to be able to give adequate care? Was I knowledgeable enough? And was I going to have the capacity and the ability? And just to give you a little idea, Mark has many special needs. He has one called GRIN2B, neurodevelopmental disorder. He has a congenital amino acid metabolic disorder. Specifically, his body can't process protein, amino acids, and especially when he was younger and a lot smaller, he was on a severely restricted diet of no more than 11 grams of protein per day. And oh my goodness, as you can imagine, everything, even fruit, has protein in it. So that was a challenge. He has low IQ, he has an intellectual disability, he has a processing disorder, he has long-term and short-term memory disorder, he has severe Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I could go on and on and on. So you get the idea. He is a mountain of special needs. And at the time, I don't think I gave myself enough grace, but looking back, I'm like, well, understandably, I had a lot of worry. Understandably, I was concerned about a lot of different things. And so let's dive into what the difference is between worry and concern, because even though obviously you probably don't have the same concerns or worries that I do, we all struggle with worry. We all struggle with, I won't say concern, because like I said, we're going to talk about the differences here. So, okay, let's get into that. What is worry? First of all, worry is the questioning, often rumination over and over and over inside your head, the what ifs. What if this happens? What if I don't do that? There's no end to worry. It's needless. It's a waste of energy. It's hurtful, not helpful. And to me, that was the difference between the two. Worry is never ending. It doesn't lead to a good place. It's not constructive. It's not productive. It is hurtful. It takes away your energy, takes, essential mental real estate. It takes up all your thoughts, all your energy inside your head. Concern, on the other hand, is helpful. Concern leads you somewhere. It leads you to asking questions that can hopefully lead you to getting information that is actually helpful. It is constructive. It is a means to an end. It helps bring clarity. And so, what is the takeaway here? What is the strategy? The strategy is to, when you're in a place of worry, when you've got endless rumination going on inside your head, that's thinking over and over and over, replaying those thought processes and asking those questions that, again, are leading you nowhere other than exhausted and out of energy. How do you convert that worry into concern, into something that is constructive and that can help you? And what helps me is, instead of the what ifs, first of all, I think it's important to vent, get it all out. As long as you're stuck inside your head, you're in that echo chamber of just hearing yourself over and over again. So take a few minutes, and brain dump, journal, vent, vomit all those thoughts and worries and questions on the page. Just get them all out. And then start looking at those questions and figuring out, okay, are there any here that actually lead me to concern? Are any questions here ways that I can actually help myself or the situation. And what I like to do, and I'm looking at a list I have just slightly off camera so I don't forget any of them. My questions that I look for is, what can I learn? Is there anything that I can do research on that's going to help inform me or help me better the situation? Can it help bring clarity? And will that clarity help take away or ease some of this concern and hopefully put an end to the worry? Next, is there anything that I specifically can do? Are there any concrete, actionable steps? Next, what can I control? Because if we can figure out what you can and what you can't control, it could be incredibly overwhelming to see a list of things that are completely out of your control. However, if you can realistically look at a list and specifically say, okay, XYZ, these things are completely out of my control, it's far easier to let that go. It's not comfortable. Nobody likes to do that. But if you can rationalize it, okay, this would be an utter waste of my energy to continue to try and hold on and change this when I can't, then it's far easier to let it go. And that takes practice too, and that'll be another video for another day. But next, concern moves us from a place of being passive to actually active. And when we busy ourselves on the things that we can control, on the things that we can learn, on the things that we can do, that's a better use of our energy than staying stuck in that echo chamber of worry, just questioning and thinking over and over again. Now, getting back to my story, I will never forget the day the very first pediatric neurologist I saw told me not to expect much. And essentially he said Mark would be rocking in a corner, staring at a wall, and really wouldn't be talking, would not be walking, and just painted a very bleak picture for me. And it's hard to keep going when you're staring down a future that has no light at the end of the tunnel. That is a future that you almost would rather not continue walking towards. And I remember Mark was, well, that was actually the first pediatric neurologist before we had all the answers. I buckled Mark into his seat in the back seat, and I got in front of the steering wheel. I was alone, and I thought, I can't drive with as upset as I am. And so I turned on some music, some kids' music I had, so that Mark wouldn't hear me crying in the front seat. And I let myself cry. And I just got it all out. And when I gained my composure, as I drove us home, I started thinking, okay, this worry is going to get me nowhere. Well, it's going to get me somewhere. It's going to get me into an early grave. And then there's no one left. And I had to pull my stuff together to not only be able to take care of Mark, but to take care of myself. And I was a mom to Nate and a wife to Jason. And, well, gosh darn it, I wasn't about to be done living yet. Even though the future for Mark and my future as his caregiver was incredibly overwhelming. So what I did is I started looking, I transformed my worry into concern. Okay, I could focus on everything that neurologist was telling me, or I could transform it into something that I could actually do something about. Mark's particular condition, the GRIN2B neurodevelopmental disorder, he actually wasn't diagnosed with that until he was 12, I believe. And at that time, less than 100 people worldwide had that disorder. But what I could do is recognize that Mark was more than his disorder, and I could start looking at ways I could adapt our household and change how I interacted with him in order to bring about the very best case scenario that I could, given the situation. And that was far more constructive than sitting in a place of worry. I'm not going to say that there haven't been more days like that, because there have been, but knowing how to get myself out of a place of worry and moving myself to a place of concern has been incredibly helpful. So if you struggle with worry, I highly encourage you to take a minute and stop and think, how can I change my worry, my passive wasting of my mental energy, worry, and turn it into something constructive, something that moves you to a place of action, something that gives you the opportunity to move forward in a positive way that is helpful, not hurtful. That's all I've got for today, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please take a second to leave me a quick like. If you're not a subscriber, I'd love to have you join this community. And if there's something that you do that's helpful when you're worrying over and over inside your head, please take a second to comment below. I'm always looking for tips to help myself too. Again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.